Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another quick pick prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the middleweight bout between Nick Maximov versus Cody Brundage. So how I see this fight right here, there's not really a whole lot to judge about or predict off for this fight because you got two very early on in their careers fighters, 6-1 in Brundage versus 6-0 Nick Maximov. And you got the continuous series fight for both of them. You got a loss for Brundage, you got a win for Maximov. I think Brundage fought much better competition than William Knight, whereas Maximov fought a guy who just was oversized, truck driver or whatnot. So definitely fought better competition on the side of Brundage, would have lost. It was looking good for like the first 2 minutes and 20 seconds. He got knocked out with those standing elbows against the cage when he was trying to go for a takedown, the little Travis Brown elbows. Was looking real solid, but also look one-dimensional. But you got Nick Maximov, who just really controlled his opponent throughout, but wasn't fighting the same level of competition for the heavyweight. But who was he? But I'm saying all to say all that. I'm gonna pick Maximov to win because again, both these guys very much need a lot of more tape on them. They definitely need a lot more to build in their resumes, build in their careers, more fights to judge from for themselves and for predictors and whatnot, to really get a judge of what their tendencies and patterns and what they're good at and their weakness, strengths, their SWOT analysis and whatnot. But I'm gonna go with Maximov. I feel like Brundage has pretty much shown so far that he's kind of a one-dimensional fighter. Even when I look at his fights, like he looks like he won a strikes, but he look at a guy who just will strike as a means to end or barely even that, and will instantly look to try to take it to the ground, almost telegraph it. Powerful, strong, but will look for the wrestling every now and then. I mean, every single time. And then you got Nick Maximov, who I feel will have the better striker coming from that DS Academy, which has some pretty solid boxing, and has a wrestling background as well. So I feel like he is shook by the wrestling of Brundage, already having a wrestling background himself, and so you can't expect him to be a DS brother who have early on in their career struggled with wrestling, and probably really a lot of their career struggled with wrestling. But he has a wrestling background, pretty solid wrestling background. Then on top of that, having some solid BJJ. I see him as a more fleshed out fighter. Say he has the striking, he has the BJJ. Wrestling probably goes to Brundage, but it's not a case of where Maximov is so green to wrestling. His wrestling should be pretty solid, be able to match it to the extent. Grappling should be able to take advantage of opportunities and scrambles and mixing grappling. And once he secures his position, or at least threatening with submissions, be able to get advantage in that area. On the striking, I see he can get us some. But once he starts to address the wrestling of Brundage, and the fight starts to settle down more, eventually be able to take more opportunities on the feet, take more opportunities on the ground, land some shots here and there. I think it's basically a case where he'll weather him out, maybe after that first round, maybe close, maybe a Brundage round. And then the fight starts to go down, those big wrestlers start to get tired, and I start to see Maximov starts to walk him down, tag him up, make him reach for takedowns, start him with submissions, and maybe push him back to guard on his back, start him with like a front choke, then fall back to guard, land some ground and pound, tap him up. And eventually start to pepper him up and then saute him, and then be able to put him out in the third round via submission, like tap out a tired wrestler in the third round. So in this fight, I have Nick Maximov via third round submission.